Welcome to the Esri Ocean and Atmospheric GIS Forum. We are really glad to see you here, part of our extended Ohana, our family. And I've been asked just to kick things off, as Drew's already mentioned, to tell you about some of the science initiatives, because the work of this forum, the work of your community, is part of the work of Esri. So I wanted to first show you a brand new website. This is very, very important for us. This is essentially our online portfolio of what we are doing in collaboration with you. Many of you are in this new website, and we hope to add all of you at some point. This is about how we are advancing science to literally save the planet. It's come down to saving the planet. And on this new website, you will move through the various initiatives that we have as part of our science portfolio. Openness in our science is something that you hear quite a bit about. Now, as you can see, we're moving through the atmosphere here to weather and climate science, another one of our big initiatives that, of course, you'll hear about this week. Ocean science, as we come down to the oceans here. Solid earth science for the geologists, the hydrologists, the agricultural scientists, the people who look at the solid earth and beneath. Geographic information science, also known as geospatial or spatial data science. All of the work that we are doing on the technology side and the theory that underpins that technology. Social science is going to become an ever-increasing part of what we focus on, and many of you are social scientists and working at that interface with human communities. This site is full of many, many resources, many ways that you can leverage the capabilities of our platform to do all of the wonderful things that you are doing. This is all about advancing science for the planet. And I would go further to say that this is about advancing science for people so that we can all use this effectively and take action. A word that I hope we'll hear a lot this week is action. It's wonderful to come together and to exchange ideas, but we leave this meeting empowered and ready to continue our good work. I want you to be able to focus on these initiatives and use these as resources as you learn at this meeting and as you continue after this meeting. So I'll just focus, since we're at the Ocean and Atmospheric GIS Forum. If you go to the Weather and Climate Science Initiative, you'll see a lot of the resources that you'll hear about this week and some that you won't hear about, so that you can explore these later. We have some wonderful collaborations with our partners at the National Center for Atmospheric Research and NASA, of course, NOAA, the National Weather Service, and more. So these pages basically tell you about these partnerships and programs. We must have Kim O'Kale on our site, so there he is. And there are many, many resources that are associated with that particular sector. And we give a salute to our partners. So you can go to these boxes here to learn more about the partners that are working with us. And we are adding to this all the time. Similarly, with ocean science, again, the same type of format in terms of looking at our meetings, looking at the work that we're doing, sharing free data, story maps, and so forth, keeping you apprised as to how we are moving forward in collaboration with you. And so again, this is really a go-to place for resources, for connections, for inspiration, to connect with our partners. And we have many, many partners in ocean science. And if you want to be added as a partner to work with us, we absolutely welcome that. I'll end this little tour of the site with a look at our spatially intelligent maps and apps. So this is a nice little library or catalog that you can go through. You will again hear about many of these apps this week and throughout the year, but these are categorized especially for scientists and resource managers and conservationists. So there are explorer apps, there are online analysis apps where you're actually doing a simple analysis using only a web browser. There's a new category called dashboards, which I'll talk about more in a couple of minutes, and of course, story maps. So enjoy this site. Please use this site. It is ever-changing, ever-growing. And if I get to the... So this is the URL for this site. So please take note of it, bookmark it. And again, I hope you really, really enjoy it. I hope that you will keep in touch with us in order to keep it alive and keep it growing. And we will do our best to make it the best site that we can for you. I would like to salute our Esri virtual science team that put in so much work to create this site, which is 1 year in the making, and especially my colleague Noelle Loughran, who works with me to keep it updated all the time. So now let me go into some comments for you. I won't take up too much of your time because we want to hear from Joe Pica, but I wanted to just talk a little bit about your knowledge, our community, and this is a joint community now of ocean and atmospheric scientists, of ocean resource managers, and practitioners who look at the weather and the climate. We are now one, and we are working for one planet's resilience. So I'll go through each of these sections very quickly. In terms of your knowledge, as Drew has already shared with you, you are part of building a fantastic foundation. And we give many names to this foundation. We are now talking about a geospatial nervous system for the planet, especially as you do your work in your lab, in your office, on your phone, on your tablet, but you are constantly sharing that work, giving of your results as part of this broader geospatial infrastructure. And so this is literally a nervous system for the planet that is filled with open data, actionable data, insight, all of the wonderful things that are helping to make us connected and to make us more effective, because it's really about being effective with what we have gathered with our data, with how we are analyzing and understanding that, and with how we are communicating our data and results. An important part of this infrastructure is content, and we can't emphasize this enough. Your content, your data, especially as you make that open, especially as you share that, especially as you explain that, is a big part of this infrastructure and a big part of all of our stories. So you're going to hear a lot about the ArcGIS Living Atlas of the World. The ArcGIS Living Atlas of the World is the top 1% of all of the content that is in ArcGIS Online. And there are some pretty impressive stats about ArcGIS Online up there to the upper right. The ArcGIS Online content as curated authoritatively in the Living Atlas is really quite remarkable, and we hope that you will consider contributing to that if you haven't already. We hope that you will consider using it. How many people actually are using the Living Atlas of the World now? Wonderful, but we'd like to see every hand go up. So as a result of this meeting, we hope that you will take a look at the many services and apps that are in the Living Atlas. The weather and climate services and apps are growing all the time. These are amazing in terms of the breadth of authoritative, accurate information. Many of it is near real time in terms of imagery, giving you information about droughts, hurricanes, water forecasts, live feeds of weather and disaster information. And many of those, if not all of those live feeds for weather and disaster information are now free. They don't require a subscription. So this is part of our contribution to the public safety community. This is really, really important work that's being done here. And this is work that comes from us at Esri, but it comes mainly from the community, the user community, the federal government agencies, particularly in terms of many of the satellite images that we have in the Living Atlas, the geostationary satellite imagery for the Atlantic, the Pacific, and the Indian Oceans. We are very excited about the new Sea Ice Aware app that has recently been released to help you look at Arctic and Antarctic sea ice in terms of its annual extent, in terms of monthly changes in the extent and we hope at some point, the thickness of the ice. So this is for both the Arctic and the Antarctic. Many of these services and apps or feeds are now being incorporated into what is known as dashboards. I love dashboards. This is one of my new things that I love exploring, because these are ways to show many, many different types of visualization elements. You have, of course, a map, but you have charts, graphs, infographics, feeds that are often connected to near real-time sensors, giving you up-to-date information so that you can make actionable decisions. So these are very easy, yet very powerful information displays. To create these dashboards requires no computer programming, using the helpful apps that we provide. And so there's a whole new world now of these dashboards. So this is a dashboard that comes from NASA's MODIS services to show you active fire and hotspots throughout the planet. So California is not the only place that seems to be completely on fire at the moment. It seems as though the whole planet is on fire, physically, if not politically. So this is one of the ways that you can access that very powerful information. We have a whole series now of dashboards for the ocean, such as the Argo float constellation of over 3,900 floats. Each and every float now is chronicled or cataloged in a dashboard. There is a dashboard that our Living Atlas team put together in terms of coral reefs, the coral reefs that are at risk of bleaching up to the day. Ports, weather services, government agencies now are turning to dashboards, again, for up-to-the-minute information that is critical for managing in terms of situational awareness of these very important areas. So this Port of Rotterdam dashboard, in terms of the weather and tide information, is very, very useful to take a look at as well. You can create all kinds of dashboards. One of my favorites is this Batman villain dashboard, so that you can keep in touch with all the villains moving throughout your particular area, whoever they might be. I like this slide that my colleague Kevin Butler provided to me. And in it, it says, behind every great map is a collection of content and analytics that transform our understanding. Because for those of us who are in the GIS world, it's all about the map, certainly, but it's all about the analysis, the spatial analysis that you do with that data that is expressed on the map. And this is the very power of what we are doing as spatial people. The map is the result of something that can be trusted, it's rigorous, it can be explained to a broad variety of audiences, and it's the analytics that sets that in motion. So it's my pleasure to introduce a feature that is coming in ArcGIS Pro 2.5. I've been given the leeway to announce this. 2.5 is in beta right now, but you will be able to work with multidimensional rasters in a different way in ArcGIS 2.5. There is a new image analyst toolbox, multidimensional toolbox, many powerful raster functions that allow you mainly to generate trends in your data. So this has a predictive capability there. There is a new Pro user experience, user interface, that is really a new multidimensional tab. The multidimensional, I don't have, do I have a pointer here? Well, I won't take chances there. So hopefully you can see the multidimensional tab at the middle of the interface there, where you can model trends in your data. You can use time series image data, and it helps you to make predictions at any given time. So in this example, we're looking at exploring sea surface temperature change at different points, different locations in different oceans over time. They can be annual or seasonal averages. You're modeling these trends by fitting regression equations to your data. So this is another new powerful capability. In this example, we're looking at sea ice at polar regions, but not only sea ice extent, but sea ice thickness. And the product engineers who have put this together have been able to match this to real scientific studies, so that of course we're seeing a loss of sea ice in the Arctic, and this is being modeled over time in terms of the extent, but also the thickness. But interestingly enough, the trend rasters that were created are correctly picking up an increase in sea ice thickness in the Antarctic. This is climate change related, but it's a flip in terms of our intuition in terms of what is happening in polar regions. But with this capability, the important thing is that you're able to generate trend rasters by fitting a rigorous regression model to your data. Either linear regression for annual predictions, or you can use a harmonic regression for seasonal predictions. So that was my opportunity to geek out there with the new capability in ArcGIS Pro. I want to also emphasize that we are dealing with our platform, certainly, but this is about openness. It's about open science. It's about connecting with the open source world, connecting with open source libraries, such as what you see here on the left. So this is a very important part of what we are about in terms of making sure that we are contributing to this geospatial nervous system in terms of the analytics as well. So I won't go through everything that's in this slide, but we are very, very excited, in a nutshell, about the ability to share in terms of notebooks, Python, particularly Python notebooks of varying flavors, but the Jupyter notebooks are the ones that are most popular now. And being able to serve these notebooks in terms of serving that along with our data, moving our analytics to the data, and making these notebooks as encapsulations of everything that we can do with the data as a great way of sharing that. It's also a wonderful, fantastic teaching tool as well. So keep your eyes peeled for data science. We are encapsulating this in the term data science in terms of these hosted Python notebooks. Something else that you're going to hear about, especially in terms of sharing, is Hub, ArcGIS Hub. This is really, really critical now, particularly in our quest to be open. There are many organizations that are working with this technology. This is one example here, the Ocean Health Index, which many of you may have heard about, which is a way to characterize the health of regional seas that are under the jurisdiction of countries in terms of the several index factors to make sure, or countries can get a score from 0 to 100 in terms of how healthy their oceans are. And there are about 220 countries that are participating in this. And the Ocean Health Index partnership, which is led by Conservation International and UCSB's National Center for Ecological Analysis and Synthesis, is turning to Hub now in terms of sharing what's going on with this initiative by way of accessing the data, discovering the data, and validating the data. So they have put together several toolboxes that hold the evolving Ocean Health Index scores and their intermediate data. This also goes by country. They're using R quite a bit, so our technology is compatible with that, and GitHub as well. They have community needs templates so that countries know what to do, how to work with the data, how to assess the data, and this is very similar to what the needs are with our UN statistical organizations. So I'm really excited to hear from my colleague Gemma tomorrow as she talks about the United Nations Economic and Social Commission for Asia and the Pacific along these lines as well. But what the Ocean Health Index folks are using is ArcGIS Online. Their hub has communities and groups for each region or each country that they are working with in their global portfolio. They have web services, story maps, dashboards, curated data pages, and a data validation application as their data flow goes from their pre-processing toolbox up through their ArcGIS Online databases into these various ways of getting the data out, getting the data actionable. It is then validated in terms of this application, which feeds that data back into their ArcGIS Online based hub for the Ocean Health Index. And then, of course, they have this is one of their dashboards that is assessing how things are going. I've chosen to focus on the latest Mission Blue hotspot off the coast of Colombia. So the Colombia, certainly offshore, is a reason for hope in terms of that new area, as shown here by a fairly large Ocean Health Index score and color. You should also check out Earth Challenge 2020. How many of you have heard of Earth Challenge 2020? Not enough of you. This is the 50th anniversary celebration of Earth Day. We all know about Earth Day, right? Everybody knows about Earth Day, I hope. I won't make you show your hands. This coming Earth Day in 2020 will have a concerted focus on citizen science. And the Wilson Center and the Earth Day Foundation have come together with this amazing ArcGIS hub-based site that's focused on several goals, of course, but also specific research questions. Two of the questions that are coming out right now, this one is about air quality. How does air quality vary locally? So this hub site goes through all of the aspects of that question, including the open data and the apps that can help people to answer that question in citizen science activities. Their other major question right now is ocean-based in terms of the extent of plastic pollution in the oceans, but also in the river systems that are feeding the oceans. So again, this gives you all kinds of citizen science resources, and this is all being served by ArcGIS Hub. We haven't forgotten also about the ecological marine units. The ecological coastal units are still coming. We appreciate how many of you are using the ecological marine units. This is our digital 3D presentation of the ocean using real data in terms of oxygen, temperature, salinity, and nutrients. We've been publishing it, we've been working on it further. The apps, the Ecological Marine Unit Explorer apps have received a big upgrade in terms of the web app and the mobile app as well. Sean, is the mobile app updated? So take a look at those. And we continue to have use cases of the Ecological Marine Units, people taking action with this 3D digital ocean to work on new marine protected areas, but also to assess species abundance and distribution throughout large parts of the ocean. This shows you the locations of 6 of these use cases, but there's several more. And they are being worked on and written up and communicated, and it's all very exciting. So that work continues, and we will be continuing to move to the coast as well. So keep your eye on that. In terms of our community, there is a lot that is happening. And so the fourth quarter of the year, I love it. It's the ocean quarter for me. There are all of these fantastic conferences. Drew and I are on tour along with our colleagues, going to many of these conferences, supporting these initiatives. Many of you were at Ocean Obs 19 in Hawaii. That brought together over 3,000 of the ocean observing community, but this was wonderful because it was more than just the physical and the chemical oceanographers who were using satellites and drones and buoys and drifters to observe the ocean. This particular meeting was transformational because there was a huge focus on inclusiveness. The geologists were welcome. We were considered to be ocean observers. The seafloor was considered to be part of the ocean. We were like, yes! Seabed 2030 was there in a big abundance. There was a focus on indigenous communities and traditional ecological knowledge as part of observing the ocean and linking that community in to the scientific community. So it was a wonderful meeting that took place in September. For Esri, we had an opportunity to get linked up with one of the big initiatives behind Ocean Obs 19, which is the Partnership for Observation of the Global Ocean, or POGO. Scripps Institution of Oceanography is very involved with POGO, as are many, many other organizations across the world. POGO is very concerted about showing who is part of this partnership, not only who is there, but how they are linked together. So Esri, as part of POGO now, can make these, we can say through our partnerships that we are part of these initiatives. There are many, many more, of course. But at OceanObs 19, we were able to really link up with GEO's, the Group on Earth Observation's Blue Planet Initiative. Thanks especially to the work of my colleague Keith Van Graffelen. You'll hear more about that specific work tomorrow, so I won't go into that further. But that was a fantastic meeting. There is also a big push coming out of that meeting for ocean best practices. How many of you have heard of the Ocean Best Practices platform? Again, only a few of you. This is something, talk to Tiffany about it especially. Tiffany, put your hand up again. So Tiffany is one of our great users and leaders in the ocean community, working for NOAA, involved with IUSE, the Integrated Ocean Observing System. She is a wonderful person to get her a cup of coffee or a cup of tea. Best practices is something that the entire GIS community needs to get involved in. I'll say it again. Best practices is something that the entire GIS community needs to be involved in. Why? Because it is a catalog now, a growing catalog of workflows. And of course, practices, but what are practices for us? Our workflows, our models, our analytics, the things that we as GIS practitioners excel at. So there are tons of things that we can be submitting to this global catalog that's getting a lot of attention. Somebody uploaded a cookbook of practices at sea in terms of measuring a single oceanographic parameter, and within 1 month, that cookbook got 1,000 downloads from this platform. So Esri will be participating in this platform. We'll be putting in some of our best practices, particularly related to the chlorophyll A, SDG 14 work that Keith is doing. We'll be putting the benthic terrain modeler into this, perhaps the JEBCO cookbook, thank you, Guy, into this. So I just wanted to give you a heads up about that. There are also a lot of these little think tank meetings that are going on. One was at Ditchley last month. Ditchley Park is a place where, I've forgotten his name. Who was the prime minister? See, I didn't get enough sleep last night. Winston Churchill. Winston Churchill used this place to strategize about how they were going to continue the war effort in World War II. He used Ditchley Park north of Oxford for this secret strategizing place before he went to London. Ditchley now is a place to strategize in terms of how to change the world in terms of data, in terms of science, and linked to the finance sector. So they are really focused now on oceans, on ocean data transformation. And so there was a group of us who were at Ditchley Park strategizing as to how to do that. It was a wonderful meeting, and it actually fed into our oceans in Oslo, Norway, which took place the following week. Our Oceans is the continuation of Secretary of State John Kerry's push from the State Department to make sure that governments are making key promises, key commitments to saving the ocean. So that was a wonderful conference. There was also Seabed 2030's Vision to Action Summit. As you hopefully know, Seabed 2030 is the global initiative to map the entire world ocean floor to a very high resolution by the year 2030 so that we truly understand this part of our planet. So that was a meeting that took place at the Royal Society in London. This is also a model that was displayed there of the vehicle that won the Ocean Discovery XPrize, which is one of the ways that we will hopefully help Seabed 2030 to become a reality in terms of all of these wonderful autonomous vehicles and robots that will be mapping the world ocean floor. There is a blog post that's coming that will talk about Esri's involvement with XPrize and with Seabed 2030. This particular blog post is not out yet, but just so that you know, look for the title, Robots Reveal What Lies Beneath the Ocean. That's coming in the next few weeks. Right now, there is the Seabed 2030 Map the Gaps Symposium. Well, they will be pushing this initiative forward even more. And so that's taking place in New Hampshire. We are part of that effort. We have sent one of our great program managers, to that meeting. We can't be in two places at once, all of us. So that's happening in New Hampshire while we are here in Redlands. And then later on this month, you'll want to pay attention to Blue Tech Week, run by the Maritime Alliance partners. That will be in San Diego. Very important meeting for the blue economy, particularly from the industry sector's standpoint, the commercial sector. And then over in Paris, the World Ocean Council, along similar lines, will have their Sustainable Ocean Summit. That is another business alliance for corporate ocean responsibility. So our community is broad, it's vast, it's exciting. But again, this is one planet. We only have one planet. We are all working to save that one planet. This has been a fantastic year for those of us who are space geeks and who loved the Apollo program with the 50th anniversary of the Apollo 11 landing on the moon. Many of us have been reintroduced to this Apollo 8 photograph of the Earth rising from the perspective of the moon, which gave us all the undeniable feeling that, again, we are all one together. In terms of the ocean, we are really excited about this new map. It is a projection. It's the Adams Square 2 projection to render Atherton Spilhaus's map of one ocean. Atherton Spilhaus, I think, is a very nice person to introduce at this forum because he was both a meteorologist and an oceanographer. He came up with this view of the ocean in 1942. He worked further with the National Geodetic Survey in order to get closer to a projection so this map could be rendered in various ways. The mathematics for that projection were never completed until recently when our projection geometry team, led by David Burrows and Boyan Savrik, did the mathematics in order to render this as an Adams 2 square projection with a Spilhaus projected coordinate system. So now this will be coming in ArcGIS Pro 2.5, as well as ArcMap Desktop 8.0. What a way to look at the ocean as one ocean. It's got all of the oceans in there, but it gives you the idea that this is one body that we are all working on together. It was very deliberate that Antarctica was put into the center of this map. This map has been blowing people's minds for the last year, and we hope to leverage it even further to bring out the message of how oneness is so critical. To that end, I'll just say briefly that many of you know about Saildrone, which is a company that is putting out a fleet of solar and wind-powered drones that are collecting wonderful data of the oceans, including bathymetry. And Saildrone has reached out to Esri to contribute its data to the Living Atlas of the World. I've not talked to Keith or Sean about this yet, but that's coming. There have been so many meetings, we haven't had a chance to actually get together. So that is coming. Saildrone is also, with their fleet of worldwide drones, they are participating in Seabed 2030 as well. So their drones can collect multi-beam bathymetry, and they're going to do their part to contribute to the Seabed 2030 initiative, particularly in this area of the Southern Ocean. They sent a fleet of drones that circumnavigated the Antarctica in December. Now, this Spilhaus map, unfortunately, we'd have to kill these lights in order for you to see it better. Thank you. Our cartographers, especially John Nelson, have been doing wonderful renditions of this map so that you can see, for instance, all of the hydrothermal vent systems in our one ocean, or the global morphology of the seafloor, particularly in terms of ridges and trenches. This is the work of Peter Harris et al. At UNEP GRID, Arendal, Norway. This map was done by Grayson Harris. Or the Ocean Health Index rendered with the Spilhaus coordinate system. And for Sylvia, our marine and coastal protected areas so that we have an even better idea of how little of the ocean is still protected, how many more hope spots we need to add to the catalog, to the collection there in terms of this one vast ocean for all of us who are one people on one planet. So thank you very much for allowing me to give you these brief comments. Again, that site that I talked about with our portfolio, including much of what we are going to be producing here this week, is on the top, the esriurl.com/SciComm. And a lot of people want to run with some of the things that I say at the Ocean Forum right away. So these slides are already available at this particular URL if you want to download them. But as Drew said, the videos are coming. So thank you very much.